Have you ever had that dream? The one where you just escape it all, find a quiet little spot in the mountains surrounded by nothing but pure, pristine nature? It's a really powerful feeling, something I think we all want. But what if our desperate rush to get closer to the wild is the very thing that's, well, changing it forever? Today, we're going to dive into this strange paradox, this idea that our love for nature often leads us to try and master it, and in the process, maybe even undo it. This whole idea is captured perfectly in the Norwegian concept of friluftsliv, which literally means open-air life. The famous explorer Fridtjof Nansen described it as a way to get away from the noise of civilization, to reconnect with something more real, more authentic. And that feeling, that deep-seated need to escape the city, to find our true selves out in nature, that's really the starting point for this whole story. So let's start right there with that dream, the dream of wild nature, that magnetic pull of a remote cabin, the call of the mountains, and our deep, deep desire to connect with a world that we imagine is totally untouched and pure. In Norway, they call it the cabin dream, and it's a perfect symbol for a much bigger global quest. I mean, in one way or another, we all share this desire to find our own little slice of paradise, right? But here's the thing. This dream has a hidden side, a paradox that reveals something really profound about our relationship with the entire planet. Okay, so now we need to zoom out. I mean, way out. We're going to shift from that personal dream of a cabin to a planetary reality. Because to really get this paradox, you first have to understand humanity's new role as a genuine geological force. So let me just ask you this. What do you think is the most powerful force moving rock, soil, and sand around on the surface of our planet right now? Just take a second. What's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it wind, water, glaciers? For almost all of Earth's history, you would have been absolutely right. The big movers and shakers were these natural giants, massive rivers carving out canyons, huge glaciers grinding down entire mountains. But that's just not true anymore. Today, the single most powerful force shaping the Earth's surface is us. And the scale of this is, well, it's just staggering. When you add up all our mining, our farming, and all our construction, we humans now move more earth, more rock, more soil, more sediment every single year than all of the world's rivers combined. We've literally become the new rivers, the new glaciers. This new reality is so big, it has a name, the Anthropocene. It's the proposed new geological epoch, and it's defined by one simple fact. Human activity is now the #1 influence on the planet's climate and environment. We're not just living on the Earth anymore. We are geological agents, actively and constantly reshaping the planet itself. So, what's the thinking that gets us here? What's driving this massive Earth-moving operation? Well, it's a mindset of mastery. It's an outlook that sees the entire planet as something to be managed, to be improved, and ultimately to be designed by us. A good way to understand this is to look at how we categorize nature. You've got first nature, that's the pristine, untouched wilderness, which, as we've just seen, is pretty much a myth at this point. Then there's second nature. That's the landscape we've made productive, like farms and managed forests. And finally, you have third nature, which is the garden, a landscape designed purely for human pleasure, for how it looks and feels. The landscape architect Gilles Clément makes this amazing argument that in the Anthropocene, the entire planet has basically become one giant planetary garden. There's no true wild left to escape to. There's just this one single managed garden, and we are its gardeners, responsible for every part of it. This kind of thinking leads us to a concept that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, but it's happening right now: terraforming. Yeah, we usually think of terraforming as changing Mars to be more like Earth, but in reality, we're already terraforming our own planet. We flatten hills for buildings, we carve up mountains for roads, we are constantly reshaping the very surface of the Earth to fit our blueprints. And this brings our huge planetary view right back down to that personal dream of a cabin in the woods, because this is where the heart of the conflict really lies. This is the cabin paradox. Just think about it for a second. To get to our unspoiled natural paradise and, live there with some comfort, what do we actually need? Well, we need massive road networks blasted through mountainsides. We need power lines and water and sewage pipes trenched through forests. We need parking lots and grocery stores and pretty much all the comforts of modern city life. So in our desperate search to escape the city, we just end up rebuilding it in the wilderness.
The very act of trying to enjoy that unspoiled nature actually consumes it, urbanizes it, and transforms it into a watered-down version of the exact world we were trying to run away from.
This shows a huge shift in how we think. Traditionally, people would adapt their buildings to the landscape. They'd follow the curves of the hills, work with what was there. The modern mindset of mastery, it does the exact opposite. We adapt the terrain to our structures. We don't build on the mountain anymore, we flatten the mountain to make a platform for our building.
And look, this isn't just some philosophical idea. It has very real, very damaging consequences. So let's look at the hidden environmental costs, what some have called paradise's shadowy backside, and we'll use the Norwegian cabin boom as a perfect case study. One of the key reasons this destruction just keeps happening is through something called bit-by-bit planning. Basically, local governments will approve one small development here, another one over there. Each individual project on its own seems pretty minor, almost harmless. But when you add it all up over the years, the cumulative effect is this massive, irreversible loss of wilderness. Let's get really specific. A lot of this building happens on peatlands. Now, healthy peatlands are amazing. They are incredible carbon sinks, storing huge amounts of carbon safely underground. But when we dig them up to build cabins and roads, all that stored carbon gets released into the atmosphere. The landscape literally flips from being a climate solution, a carbon sink, into a climate problem, a carbon source. And what happens to all that earth we've moved? Well, it's called surplus masses. All the leftover rock we blasted, the peat we dug up, it doesn't just disappear. It gets dumped and piled up nearby, creating these new, totally artificial hills and unstable slopes that permanently scar the landscape. The end result is this. The natural, rolling, living shape of the land gets dynamited and bulldozed into these flat, sterile building pads. The landscape is transformed into what looks like a permanent construction site. It's a monument to our desire for total mastery over nature. But here's the thing. This paradox isn't just about cabins in Norway. It's a fundamental problem of modern life. We see it everywhere, sometimes even in our own backyards. So the final question isn't really about them. It's about us. Think about it. Where in your own life does a desire for something pure, something natural or authentic, come with hidden costs you might not see? Maybe it's the superfood flown halfway across the world, or the ecotourism trip that contributes to wearing down the very place you went to admire. What is the unseen, shadowy backside of your paradise?